My name is Jessica Strite, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Research Integration at NIOSH. We developed this webinar series to promote interest and capacity in the application of strategic foresight in occupational safety and health, and to create a forum where we can exchange ideas and best practices in strategic foresight with our extramural partners. We're glad you could join us today. Today, we're very excited to host Marc Melenfer and Jennifer Clerty from the French National Research and Safety Institute for the Prevention of Occupational Accidents and Diseases, also known as INRS, as our featured Foresight Friday at NIOSH speakers. INRS is a multidisciplinary nonprofit association that seeks to prevent work accidents and occupational diseases by responding to current health and safety challenges and anticipating those of tomorrow. Marc leads the Watch and Foresight mission of INRS. He joined INRS in 2005, working in communication and occupational risk prevention in small and medium-sized enterprises. He has been a member of the Watch and Foresight mission since 2017, dealing with various topics, including Uberization, the circular economy, and artificial intelligence. He has a dual background in history and risk management. Jennifer is project manager in the INRS Watch and Foresight mission. She joined INRS in 2017 as manager for the Information and Technical Library Service. She has a dual background in history and geopolitics. Today, Marc and Jennifer will share with us their recent work using methods such as design fiction and in-depth expert analysis to explore how different work management approaches might unfold over time and bring new challenges and opportunities to the future of occupational risk prevention. Marc, Jennifer, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you to the NIOSH for this invitation. And sorry for my horrible French accent. We are really delighted to be able to take part of this series of webinars. And today, we will share with you the results of our last foresight exercise, managing work activities in 2040 with challenges for OSH. You see on this slide the link to our English foresight page on our website. You will find here the summaries of a lot of our foresight exercise, but this one is not yet available. So 2 words about the Watch and Foresight unit at INRS. We publish foresight exercise since more than 10 years now. And at the same time of our foresight activity, it is the mission is actively monitoring certain issues that have been identified as likely to have a major influence on changes in work conditions and consequently occupational risks. Here you have the list of our past exercises on different topics like robotics, circular economy, artificial intelligence. And the aim is always to identify challenges for OSH. In 2022, the Watch and Foresight unit worked on a new foresight study regarding the evolution of management models by 2040. This choice was motivated by several observations. Firstly, companies are facing increasing instability, economical, geopolitical, environmental issues. Some talk of VUCA environment for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Sorry. And secondly, since the COVID pandemic, employees are looking for more meaning at work and a better work-life balance. And finally, the changes required by the ecological transition in the production systems appears to be very challenging. So these trends are leading companies to rethink the way they manage work and to become more agile. The aim of our exercise was to study what these changes could mean for occupational health and safety. In this context, we were only interested in the functions of team management, which includes setting objectives, defining missions and resources, teams leading, and individual support and monitoring performance.
So about the methodology, here is what we can say shortly. First of all, we set up a multidisciplinary working group with experts from INRS and partner organizations. And the exercise was then divided in 3 components. First, a retrospective and foresight analysis, followed by a design fiction approach, and finally an analysis of design fiction productions by OSH experts. During the first step of the exercise, we identified 2 types of transition to which companies are subject. The first type, presented on this slide, is related to 11 cross-cutting trends that will have an impact on companies by 2040. Beyond those trends, 4 are related to corporate strategies like automation, climate change, relationship with the local area, and the geopolitical context. And 7 other trends are influencing the way human resources management is conducted, like relationship to work, polarization of the labor market and the labor force, the characteristics of new generations, specific societal transformations, and also the question of inclusion or of the aging of the labor working population, and finally the impact of migration. The second type of transition we identified are related to the evolution of management methods. Based on a great work of literature review and expert interviews, we were able to build this timeline, which shows the main organizational models of the last century. In a very schematic way, we can distinguish here 2 types of work organizations based on a scale of worker autonomy, where systems offering the least autonomy to workers can be seen at the top of the chart in red or orange, and systems based on an offering the most autonomy at the bottom in green or blue. Overall, this timeline represents the gradual diversification and proliferation of management methods since the beginning of the 20th century, but it's not intended to provide a quantitative representation, as these models may affect very different numbers of companies or workers. Also, it's important to point out that the predominant model today is still the terrorism, which emerged with the second industrial revolution and is to be seen in orange here. On the basis of these external drivers, 12 dynamics were identified as principal evolutions regarding issues of work activity management. As you can see on this slide, 6 of them are more related to work organization, when the 6 others are related to business models. These dynamics were described in a descriptive sheet. For each, a possible evolution is proposed, as well as an obstacle that could slow it down. For example, regarding employment status, We identify the possible development of self-employment as a possible evolution, but the precarious income and the lack of social protection of this status could also be an obstacle of its development. Similarly, regarding social dialogue, we identify the potential renewal of social dialogue due to workers' demand, but in the contrary, protest strategies could evolve into individual withdrawal or into new type of actions through social networks. By cross-referencing these different components, we were then able to highlight 10 key trends which will influence the way in which work activity is managed. 8 of these trends have already been identified and are linked together. First, the growing individualization of the relationship to work, the massive deployment of telework since COVID, and the omnipresence of digital technologies at work, which are combined with a result-based management culture and an accumulation of objectives. This combination has led to a greater complexity of team management. This individualization, distancing, and complexity have also led to more difficulties of recruiting and retaining employees. It also contributes to an aspiration for self-employment and an interest in new management methods. In line with these trends, we have put forward 4 hypotheses for potential future developments. First, a crossbreeding of self-employed and employee status with the introduction of more projective self-employment models or more flexible subordination models. Secondly, a potential proliferation of new management methods different from the traditional Italian model. Thirdly, the possible development of multi-activity with people accumulating several jobs and different status, which is maybe already the case in the United States, but not already in Europe. And fourthly, the fact that new technologies could be as well beneficial as deleterious, depending on how much the worker's point of view is taken into account in their design and implementation.
The originality of this foresight exercise was partly related to the use of design fiction, which was experimented during component 2. Design fiction is a discipline that uses fiction like stories, characters, and design, for instance, creation of artifacts or documents, to embody future perspectives in a more concrete way. The use of design fiction in this study has several aims. First, to embody in concrete terms the trends identified during component 1 through fictitious workers and companies. Secondly, to facilitate appropriation and open up conversation and debate with occupational safety and health experts during the component 3. On the basis of the context that have been depicted by Jennifer in the first component, the working group designed 8 fictitious companies and 10 personae likely to emerge between now and 2040. To build these companies' profiles, we defined for each the sector of activity chosen for their high accident and illness rate, like industry, care sector, platform work, or green activities, and also a management model chosen among those identified during the exploratory work. The profile of worker had also to be as representative of the French work population as possible in terms of gender, age, education, and even professional expectation. All the logo that you see of the companies and the pictures of the workers have been created with generative artificial intelligence tools. So we imagine a professional social network of 2040 called Humans at Work. And here you have the example of one company we imagine, Copain, or Copaint maybe in English. It's a sort of cooperative which employs salaried contractors in the sector of construction specialized in painting jobs. Copaint share cobotics equipment between associated workers. And here, let me introduce you Guillaume, who is a self-employed contractor of Copain. He had to stop his activity in 2037 because of back pain. But thanks to a specific training and the use of the Copain cobots, he is now able to get back to work and discover new part of the work as dealing with the cobot maintenance, and he can also focus on client relations. In addition to each company worker combination, descriptive elements on the work and its management were added. The group also ensured that the imaginary cases illustrated the diversity of transformation and uncertainties identified in the component 1. So here is the grid that was constructed to ensure that all the dynamics and trends identified during the first component were covered by the accounts of work situations in these fictitious companies.
So finally, we submitted a booklet resulting from the design fiction phase to 23 OSH experts from different disciplines and organizations, and also from INRS. During 2 workshops, they analyze and identify the issues and opportunities that these new management methods could bring. Overall, 4 potentially harmful trends have emerged. First, technocentric organizations may lead to the development of algorithm management and reinforce the gap between prescribed work and real work. Secondly, organizations wish now to have a positive social or environmental impact, and therefore they develop activities in these areas. However, this new approach does not always take the working conditions into account and may have deleterious effects on workers' health. Thirdly, the increased use of subcontracting and temporary work may increase the number of co-activity situations and worsen inequalities between workers according to their status. And lastly, in relation with those developments, workers need to demonstrate new skills like adaptability or the ease of learning quick, etc. And the focus on these such skills could lead to neglect professional and technical knowledge, which includes the knowledge and know-how and on safety. In order to avoid these risks, the working group proposed some possible actions. Most importantly, we can mention the need to clarify responsibilities in terms of prevention, include all the workers under the same occupational injury insurance scheme, the need to develop collective discussion and social dialogue into all forms of management models in order to improve working conditions, including platform models. Also, it is important to maintain local human management in daily contact with operators. And finally, the design and integration of technologies should always take the real work into account all along the life cycle of products. Finally, we submitted a, So finally, we mentioned also that some impacts could be seen in for the prevention workers. So they may have some new roles in the future, like supporting social and professional dialogue within the organization in which they work, and also supporting the techno-organizational transformations. They should also develop new skills, like knowing how to use data collection in the workplace, or knowing how some AI technology are working. And also, finally, understanding so technologies and their implication in the working organization. Finally, we thought that there is a strong need to develop watch and expertise on technological, managerial, and industrial developments and their consequences on working conditions and OSH issues.
So to conclude, we are pleased to inform you that INRS will organize in collaboration with the NIOSH, the IFA or our German counterpart, the PEROSH network and the European Agency for Health and Safety, an international conference dedicated to foresight and the way this discipline can help to build OSH strategies and actions. So if you are interested in both Foresight and OSH, you can go and register on the website fosh2024.inrs.fr. We hope to see many of you in November in Paris. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mark and Jennifer, for sharing your fantastic insights and telling us more about your recent applications of strategic foresight for occupational risk management and prevention.